Tonight on CTV News, just how bad is racial abuse on the sidelines in Christchurch? Another heritage building bites the dust, and are you paying far too much for your power bill?
Broadcasting across Canterbury, from the CTV studio, this is First at 5.
Good evening, welcome to CTV News, now streaming live every night at ctv.co.nz. And we begin tonight with emergency services. They're responding to what is believed to be a serious crash in rural Canterbury. Police, fire and St John Ambulance were called to Old West Coast Road in Kui, west of Christchurch, shortly after 2 p.m. Motorists are advised to exercise caution when travelling through the township tonight. We'll bring you more details if the road does clear. Well, to the day's main story now, in racial abuse at a weekend rugby match has the Canterbury Rugby Union fuming and threatening to ban those responsible. But how will they catch them, and why did no other spectators say enough is enough?
The Canterbury Rugby Union is asking the public to help identify the spectators who shouted racial abuse at a Fijian rugby player at the Hawkins Trophy final last weekend. Christchurch rugby player Sake Aka is the second player in Canterbury to gain attention after being racially abused this season. The taunts at the game on Sunday got so bad that Mr Aka asked to be taken off the field during the senior club final against Lincoln University at Rugby Park in Christchurch. He came off in tears, saying he never wanted to play rugby again after someone on the sideline yelled abuse about him and his family during the match.
22's come on. Oh, I think everyone's going to get a run, aren't they? 14 off, is he? Yes, he is. Saki's gone.
The union says the first step in their investigation is finding out who the perpetrators were. It says if the person was a member of the Lincoln University Rugby, they could be fined and banned from games. In May, another Fijian player in Christchurch, Penny Manu Niliwa, spoke out about the abuse he suffered on a weekly basis. At the time, he had played 100 games for Southbridge, and both he and his team had had enough of racially derogative comments from the sideline. He said it was particularly hard on his wife, who attended the games and heard the taunts. The rugby union has said it was disappointed no one came forward in that instance to identify the culprits.
It's helped out thousands in the city who can't afford rising hospital costs, and now the Canterbury Charity Hospital is getting even better. Jared McCulloch reports.
Both an unveiling and a milestone for this Canterbury Medical Clinic. It's an important day for this hospital in Christchurch, celebrating the opening of the new extension to their medical facilities. It was officially opened by the New Zealand Governor-General, Sir Jerry Mataparai, and his second trip to the site in the space of 3 years. Sir Mataparai opened the West Wing 2 years ago, and the chair of the hospital says it's good to have him back once again to celebrate the next stage of the charity.
The post-operative recovery area has been increased in size, about doubled, which means we can make longer operating lists and therefore do more people. So that's really important. We've also added quite a lot more space. We've got an additional house where we'll be able to do some administration, and we hope soon we'll be able to have overnight stay there too.
The new extension to the East Wing cost the Trust around $400,000, with the hospital still remaining open through its 3-month transformation, with patients moved to the East Wing. The new areas of redevelopment have room for 9 more beds, meaning the hospital can increase the number of surgeries throughout the day.
They've doubled the size of recovery, they've improved the facilities for the staff, a bigger changing area for the staff. We put a new veranda on the front, and we put a loo in there so that people don't have to walk through the whole building to use the loo. So it's partly in terms of improving the throughput, it's also making it easier for people to use.
The hospital first opened back in 2007, a much smaller premises than what exists today. The facility is run by over 300 volunteers, working to provide a range of medical services including surgical, dental and counselling services. And Bagshaw says he can't believe how far the charity has come.
These days, there are certain things that you can't get done in the public hospital system. If you're acutely ill or have a major illness, you can, but if you have more minor things, often you can't get those done.
The medical trust didn't receive any funding assistance from the government, with many people and companies donating to make the new part of the hospital possible. And Bagshaw says when it first opened, he never thought the hospital would grow so rapidly.
Oh no, I don't think anyone envisaged it would be like this. I think we thought it would be a fairly low-key performance, and initially we were using second-hand equipment and hand-me-downs, but people would come and say, oh no, you can't have that, and take it away and give us a new one. So very quickly we acquired a lot of new equipment and a lot of new support.
But he says it doesn't stop here, with goals well underway for the future.
We plan to really put through bigger numbers.
Another step forward for healthcare in Canterbury. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
Well, it's a recent court case that'll cost Southern Response at least an extra $25 million in insurance settlements. But only customers who haven't settled their earthquake claims will see a higher payout.
More than 1,000 Southern Response customers yet to sign off earthquake settlements will get a higher payout. The Supreme Court ruled earlier this month in favour of a red zone property, requiring the insurer pay an additional 10% for technical building assessment costs. Today, Southern Response has responded, saying it will pay approximately 10% more on settlements of outstanding customers. This extra would cover costs including engineering, geotechnical and surveying assessments previously not covered by insurance. But the insurer will only pay this amount from the date it unsuccessfully challenged the move at the Court of Appeal in October last year. This will cover over 1,000 customers yet to sign off on settlement, but won't retroactively cover the many customers who signed off before that date. Southern Response estimates the decision will cost an additional $25 million, but the funds will be found from the government and reinsurance. It's likely the decision will add fuel to the fire of the more than 200 customers signing up with lawyer Grant Cameron in a class action against the insurer. They are also calling for higher settlements. Southern Response was created by the government after it bailed out AMI Insurance, who went broke after the earthquakes.
Well, still to come here on CTV News, streaming live at ctv.co.nz. Another heritage building is to be pulled down and the latest campaign to prevent hepatitis. Welcome back to CTV News. Awareness of hepatitis has improved in recent years, but there's still a long way to go, and doctors say prevention is still the best strategy. Here's Chelsea Daniels.
It's World Hepatitis Awareness Day, and the Needle Exchange Program New Zealand is keen to get their voice heard. The Needle Exchange Program began in 1988 and since then has become dedicated to protecting the nation against bloodborne viruses. They say they have not only saved thousands of lives through the program, but millions of taxpayer dollars, with every dollar spent on the program saving $20 in healthcare costs down the track.
The Needle Exchange Program was set up in 1988, ostensibly around the HIV epidemic that was threatening, the global situation back then. And since then, we've become basically a bloodborne virus prevention program, and we look after the health and well-being of the vulnerable population, and that is people who inject drugs.
And Charles says although drug users are more at risk, there are still chances to contract the virus, like through receiving tattoos in unsanitary conditions.
Absolutely. Anything that involves blood-to-blood is a risk situation. So anything that involves the presence of blood going into somebody else's blood has a risk profile if somebody has been exposed to hepatitis C and is carrying the virus. So tattooing is most certainly a risk factor, and research indicates that.
Their research indicates around 50% of people that come into the Needle Exchange program have hepatitis C. This is reduced from 75%. The consequences of hepatitis C are liver disease and death. He says the disease's profile in New Zealand is similar to those of other developed countries.
The overall incidence of hepatitis C amongst the adult population nationally is 1.5%. So if you go on that figure, that's around about 50,000 individuals. And that's, if you compare that to HIV in New Zealand, there's about 1,200 individuals with HIV/AIDS. So the comparison is quite startling, really.
The program calls to educate the wider public about the disease, with many people that have contracted Hep C becoming stigmatised.
The take-home message I would like to say is that we need to make sure that we reduce the stigma and discrimination as much as we can and try and get past the behaviour of injecting drug use and treat people as human beings, and that they, as a human being, they deserve the same sort of health services as any New Zealander would.
Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
Are you getting the best deal on your power bill? Well, apparently not, says the Electricity Authority. And even this cold winter, households could be saving more money.
Canterbury households are some of the least likely to switch electricity providers, despite having the highest power consumption in the country. The Electricity Authority says well over half of Canterbury households have switched electricity providers in the last 5 years. This has dropped to 17% over the last year. With Canterbury's cold snaps experienced this winter and householders consuming 20% more electricity than other regions, the authority says it's worth shopping around to find the best deal. Customers here can choose from between 8 and 14 electricity retailers, and the authority says 90% of switchers have found the process easy to do. It says the 40,000 Canterbury customers which have switched have saved on average $150 per household, saving nearly $35 million in electricity costs. The authority says if all eligible Kiwi households had switched to the cheapest electricity provider in the last year, they could have collectively saved $281 million. That's an average saving of $162 per household.
Well, it's a beautiful building, but it's coming down. Yes, it's another story of insurance payouts being more viable than restoration, but heritage advocates are not happy. Chelsea Daniels explains.
Heritage advocates have been up in arms about a demolition of a Georgian building in Bishop's Court, which was approved today.
It shouldn't be demolished because it's one of the few remaining important listed heritage buildings we have in Christchurch, certainly of this style and character and by such an important designer, Cecil Wood.
The building resides within the Bishop's Park Retirement Village in Park Terrace, across from Hagley Park. It's owned by Anglican Care and in 1926 was built for the city's Anglican bishop. It is considered highly by both Heritage New Zealand and the Christchurch City Council as a Category 1 heritage site.
It's a building which has been recognised nationally by Heritage New Zealand, the official government heritage body, as a Category 1 building, so that's the most important kind of building. And it's also been long been recognised by the City Council.
Ross has his doubts about the sincerity of the decision, claiming that a very little thought has been put into the issue.
All we know is that is what we've read in the paper today from John Cumberpatch, who says, yes, it's earthquake prone. That means it's less than 33%, 34% of the new building standard. But that's a CERA engineer. There's no evidence that this CERA engineer is the last or final authority on the matter. Whether his work or her work has been peer reviewed, whether this person has any special facility for dealing with heritage buildings. So it's a very bold and sweeping statement.
However, Deputy Chief Executive of Implementation for CERA disagrees. He says that CERA has taken all means necessary in the steps to demolish the building.
The owners have carried out over a period of time a series of engineering assessments, and the building is, as I said, dangerous. We're not running at these things all mob-handed. We're very careful, and I can confidently say, in all the structures that I've been involved in, and that's all of them over the period since the earthquakes, we have followed the law. We've taken very careful advice from engineers, from both our own engineers, private building owners' engineers, council and other heritage engineers.
He says that it's an expensive job to restore the building, something that the owners are not capable of.
My understanding is that their insurance cover is insufficient to come anywhere near repairing the structure. That's a fact of life which is it's affected all sorts of buildings and all sorts of building owners. It's not just heritage structures.
Baden says that it's in Sarah's best interest to make sure the residents of the village are safe.
I'm a statutory decision maker, and my colleague John Cumberpatch looked at all the relevant considerations for this particular structure and reached a decision to issue a Section 38 notice. So that's in the sort of the process side. As an individual living in this community, I'd love to keep them. At the end of the day, it comes down to resources, money, people, time. And where there's no money and there's no time and the structures are badly damaged, we find ourselves often with little alternative.
It is not known when the structure is due to be pulled down or whether or not Historic Places Canterbury will be able to prevent it from happening. Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
Still to come here on CTV News, the provincial rugby team is named and your local weather. And welcome back to CTV News. If you have a news story our newsroom needs to know about, why don't you give them an email at news@ctv.co.nz. And don't forget, this broadcast is repeated at 6:30pm and 9:30pm weeknights right here on CTV, and of course on demand, streaming live at ctv.co.nz. Well, Canterbury's new provincial rugby team's been named and there's plenty of new faces. Here's Jared McCulloch.
The Canterbury rugby team competing in this year's ITM Cup has been named, with a large squad of new players to hit the field. 7 uncapped players will make their debut for the side, with the team preparing themselves for their first pre-season game this week. And the head coach says it's all go.
Focus is just getting clarity of roles and getting the right people in the right places and a few introductions and get excited about another season.
2 new players have travelled from across the ditch to be a part of this year's lineup, one from the Western Force Super Rugby team and the other who's been competing at school level as a winger. Also, Tololo will make his Canterbury side debut, coming from the new Brighton Rugby Club. And back on home soil was previous Canterbury and Crusaders player Cameron McIntyre, who's been playing rugby in Japan. He's been capped 31 times and is one of the most experienced players on the side. And now he's back to play again in the championship, something he's looking forward to.
I've had a couple of injuries the last few years, but running around with these boys and the young guys, it's made me feel a bit younger and doesn't feel like that long ago I was actually out here.
But he won't be available for some time yet, being out for injury. But he says it shouldn't be long until he takes to the field again.
I've just got to wait to see the surgeon who gives you the all clear, but I'm doing, sort of 90% of the training. It's just that last bit of contact that I'm sort of not involved with at the moment. So get that over the next couple of weeks and hopefully I'll be good to go.
Return to play for him is round 2. So it's not too far away, he's just got to get a clearance from the specialist.
The ITM Cup season will hopefully be a highlight for loose forward Luke Whitelock as captain of the Canterbury side for 2015. He was part of the Crusaders Super Rugby franchise and now he's keen to get out and play provincial rugby.
I didn't play a lot of Super Rugby this year, so just hugely excited about ITM Cup starting. It's also awesome playing in the afternoon and good weather, and it's just a great competition to be a part of. There's 15 guys out on the field, and there's a few that come on, so everyone's got a role to play. Some more, than others in different areas. So it's obviously about having a good bunch of guys around you as well.
A newcomer from Lincoln University is halfback Jack Straighton. The 20-year-old says he's looking forward to the season and playing for the side.
The training's been good. These last week and coming into this week, it's been exciting being alongside some good players and just getting some experience with them.
The first game kicks off this Friday afternoon with the home side taking on Wellington at the Rugby League Park in Newton. Jared McCulloch, CTV Sport.
It's an irrigation plan designed to save North Canterbury from future droughts, but now the Huranui Water Project has been put on hold by the Environment Court.
The Huranui Water Project has been delayed for an unknown length of time. Plans for the $400 million project have been in the pipeline for years and would tap into the alpine waterways to irrigate North Canterbury. Once completed, it's hoped to provide a lifeline for the region's agricultural industry, currently experiencing prolonged drought. Its first stage, which the project says would create nearly 700 jobs and is worth $100 million to the region, has been at the Environment Court since February. Last month, the project said it was optimistic the court would sign off on all 9 application consents issued 2 years ago. The project has only had 2 opponents to the scheme, the Amuri Irrigation Company and Ngaitahu Property. Both parties and Environment Canterbury have since agreed on a set of consent changes, with the project therefore presuming sign-off would be forthcoming. The project says the Environment Court has called for external advice, which will cause further delays. Sign-off would be forthcoming. However, today the project says the Environment Court has called for external advice, which will cause further delays. Over $10 million has already been invested in the scheme, and the project won't spend any more until the Environment Court has made its decision.
And now it's time for the region's weather with Mercy.
Kia ora Canterbury. Well, I hope you all had a tino pai very good day today. It is Māori Language Week, so you can be expecting that native tongue throughout this week's weather reports. First up, today's highs, 13 degrees for Timaru, Waimate, Temuka and Geraldine. Looking to central Canterbury, 13 degrees was also shared by Christchurch, Leeston and Darfield, also Methven there, 12 degrees for Akaroa and 11 for Ashburton. North Canterbury, Kaikoura, 15 degrees for you. You actually took out the region's high today. 14 there for Cheviot, Rangiora and Culverden. 13 degrees for Hanmer Springs and Amberley. And to the mountain ranges, 7 degrees for Arthur's Pass today. Let's see what's in store for tomorrow's weather. Timaru, or should I say Te Tihi o Maru, southwesterly winds easing for your afternoon, few showers in the morning and 10 degrees there. Hakatere, Ashburton, southwesterlies for you as well, a little bit of rain for your morning, sunshine though in the afternoon and 11 degrees. Otatahi, Christchurch, southwesterlies for you also, rain coming through in the morning and sunshine as that rain clears up in the afternoon. Kaikoura, a little bit of hail for you tomorrow, could be quite a damp day and 11 degrees for your high. Let's see what's happening in the other areas around the Canterbury region. A little bit of rain there for Waimate, southwesterly winds for everyone in South Canterbury. Heading to central Canterbury, rain again there for Akaroa and Leeston, a little bit drier for Darfield and Methven, but southwesterlies for everyone. North Canterbury, again we're seeing that rain and we're seeing these southwesterlies cooling down the temperatures. 8 degrees there for Hanmer Springs, but a little bit warmer for Rangiora on 12. Southwesterlies for everyone here, a little bit dry though for Rangiora. And over to the mountain ranges, just 5 degrees for Arthur's Pass tomorrow, so it is going to be sunny but chilly for you. Let's see what's happening on Thursday and Friday. Thursday, sunny skies for everyone here and light winds, 14 degrees for Ashburton and Timaru. Flipping over to Friday now, sunny skies again, but we are seeing a little bit of high cloud. Northwesterly winds coming through and they are warming up the temperatures. Kaikoura on 16 degrees. Looking to the other areas for the upcoming days, we're seeing sunshine for most of Thursday, looking like it's going to be a very good day with light winds coming through. Flipping over to Friday, we're seeing that sun present, but we are seeing a bit of high cloud and a little bit of rain, particularly for inland basins. You can see South Canterbury and North Canterbury as well. So over the next coming days, watch the rain this evening and tomorrow morning. We are expecting a little bit of hail for high country places and inland basins, so be prepared for that. For now though, that's your weather update for Tuesday. Haere rā.
Thank you, Mercy. At least the weather is getting a lot better, that's for sure. And that is your news. Don't forget to join me for News Talk ZB's Canterbury Mornings program tomorrow every weekday morning from 8:35. But from all of us here at CTV News, have a safe and happy evening.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.